first look at Tammy Slaton's scars after skin removal surgery. 1000 lb Sisters. Tammy Slaton's life has always been measured in increments of what she could and could not do, and for years the list of impossibilities seemed endless. Born into a family where obesity was pervasive and resources were scarce, she watched her mother struggle to make ends meet while also managing her children's complex health needs. Food was comfort, celebration, and escape all at once, and by the time Tammy entered her teens she had internalized the idea that weight was an unchangeable fact of her identity. Throughout high school she was bullied for her size, yet she found solace in the same habits that accelerated her weight gain. By her early 30s she tipped the scales at nearly 700 pounds, a figure so high that it eclipsed everything else about her. Movement became painful and eventually rare, self-care routines were truncated or skipped altogether, and any dream of an ordinary adult milestone, such as driving, felt impossibly distant. When TLC introduced Tammy and her sister Amy to viewers in 1000 lb Sisters in January 2020, audiences met a woman whose world had shrunk to the size of her apartment and whose prospects seemed narrower still. Early episodes showed Tammy struggling to walk the length of her driveway, relying on oxygen to breathe, and leaning heavily, sometimes literally, on Amy, her siblings Chris and Misty, and a rotating cadre of friends to shuttle her to appointments and errands. The small Kentucky town where she lived offered little in the way of specialized bariatric care, so each medical visit required hours of planning and the cooperation of relatives who had jobs, children, and lives of their own. While their willingness to help sprang from love, Tammy felt the weight of that dependence and resented the way it highlighted what she could not do. The first season documented repeated setbacks, missed diet targets, moments of self-sabotage, and a near-fatal bout with pneumonia that landed her in the hospital on a ventilator. That scare, broadcast months later, forced Tammy to confront the reality that her life expectancy was shrinking as dramatically as her waistline refused to. Remarkably, instead of withdrawing into denial, she made a decision that surprised even those closest to her. She agreed to enter a long-term rehabilitation center in Ohio specializing in supermorbid obesity. Daily weigh-ins, strict calorie counts, and physical therapy sessions replaced the unstructured days she had become accustomed to at home. Rehab stripped away her usual coping mechanisms, no fast food runs, no late-night snacking marathons with friends, leaving her face-to-face with the emotions she had dampened with food for decades. Cameras captured tears, tantrums, and breakthroughs, but what many viewers missed was the slow recalibration of Tammy's sense of self. Every pound lost was also a belief discarded, the belief that she was incapable of change, the belief that she was destined to be a cautionary tale, the belief that she did not deserve a full life. By 2022 Tammy had met the benchmarks required to qualify for bariatric surgery, a sleeve gastrectomy that removed a large portion of her stomach and forced her to adopt radically different eating habits. In the 3 years following the operation she shed more than 500 pounds, dropping from the high 600s to below 250. Each milestone unlocked something new: the first time she stood up without assistance, the first time she buckled a standard seatbelt, the first time she climbed a short flight of stairs without gasping for air. Yet shadows of her former limitations lingered. One of the most significant was her inability, or perhaps unwillingness, to learn how to drive. Throughout her early adulthood, the idea of securing a driver's license was as far-fetched as scaling Everest. Cars, after all, are engineered for average-sized bodies. Fitting behind a steering wheel, reaching the pedals, fastening a seatbelt, or even closing the door had been physical impossibilities at her heaviest. More subtly, never driving meant never cultivating the situational awareness, reflexes, and confidence that come with years on the road. By late 2023, as her body shrank and her stamina grew, fans naturally wondered whether Tammy would tackle this final frontier. The question intensified in 2024 when she announced on social media that she had begun consultations for comprehensive skin removal surgery. Massive weight loss often leaves behind folds of excess skin that can cause infection, restrict motion, and serve as a lingering reminder of a former life. Tammy's goal was not purely cosmetic. Doctors explained that removing 40 to 60 pounds of redundant tissue would improve her mobility, balance, and posture, 3 prerequisites for safe driving. In the months leading up to her January 2025 surgery date, she documented pre-op appointments, lab work, and the emotional roller coaster of confronting yet another major procedure. Meanwhile, snippets in confessionals revealed her quiet anxiety about driving. She admitted that the mere thought of high speeds triggered a fight-or-flight response. Even on back roads near her home, she preferred the passenger seat, comforted by the illusion of control that comes from being able to look away or close her eyes during tense moments. Still, she recognized what was at stake. For Tammy, driving symbolizes full independence, the ability to decide when to leave the house, to go grocery shopping without scheduling help, to visit friends spontaneously, to accept speaking engagements or promotional events without asking others to rearrange their lives. The producers of 1000 LB Sisters seized on this narrative thread, framing it as the next logical step in her transformation arc. They filmed her jokingly testing a mobility scooter in a parking lot, then shifting to a golf cart on a quiet property owned by a family friend. Viewers watched her hands tighten on the wheel as the cart crept above 10 miles per hour, a turtle's pace by most standards but fast enough to flood her nervous system with adrenaline. Sweaty palms, shallow breaths, and that familiar refrain, "baby steps," marked her debut behind a moving vehicle's controls. Critics on social media accused her of manufacturing drama to extend her screen time. Others sympathized, pointing out that phobias rarely bow to logic. Therapists interviewed in recaps noted that Tammy's fear blends standard new driver jitters with layers of trauma, years of immobility, near-constant medical emergencies, and the memory of being physically trapped in places as mundane as her own doorway. The act of driving therefore intersects not only with skill acquisition but also with reclaiming bodily autonomy after decades of feeling imprisoned by her weight. When the 7th season premiered in spring 2025, Tammy's reveal was twofold. First came her post-skin removal body, scars still fresh but freedom of movement noticeably improved. She lifted her arms higher, twisted her torso more easily, and tackled longer walks without resting. Second came her renewed vow to pursue a license. Early episodes chronicled her enrollment in a beginner's driving course tailored for adults. The instructor, aware of the camera presence and the unique circumstances, emphasized incremental goals, spending 10 minutes sitting behind the wheel with the engine off, learning to adjust mirrors and seat height, practicing hand-over-hand steering on a simulator, and finally graduating to an empty lot for slow figure eights. Tammy's siblings greeted this development with cautious optimism. Amy, juggling single motherhood after her own marriage dissolved, confessed that chauffeuring duties had sometimes taken a toll, straining her patience and schedule. Chris, ever the protective older brother, worried about highway hazards but acknowledged how monumental a driver's license would be for Tammy's sense of dignity. Even their taciturn sister Misty, often a background figure on the show, shared in a filmed interview that she looked forward to spontaneous sisters' road trips rather than meticulously planned excursions requiring specialized vehicles and exhaustive route checks.